Welcome to NADA 2026 in Las Vegas, one of Dynatron Software's homes. I'm Maureen Martin, Vice President of Strategic Alliances, and we are delighted to be live here in the booth with some amazing icons in the automotive industry. We're going to be talking about what's happening and elevating the conversation on fixed operations, but let me first introduce to you our panel. To my left, we have Bill Demaree. Bill is the Group Fixed Ops Director for the Tom Wood Automotive Group. We have Jennifer Swope, Chief Operating Officer for the Swope family dealerships. We have Erikka Tiffani Wells. Erikka is the General Manager for Walser Hyundai of Walser Automotive Group. And one of our partners, dear and near, Rick Ulin. Rick is with NCM. He is one of their moderators, instructors, and executive coaches. So I'm just delighted to have you all here today. Thank you so much for sharing time. Definitely a change from last year in New Orleans with Iceageddon, but we are going to be continuing that conversation. And I'm going to start with you, Jennifer. You know, dealer profitability is under pressure, from both obvious and less obvious things. So let's kind of talk about it in the perspective of what's the most underestimated driver of margin erosion in dealerships today, and what happens in the culture of the dealership or the group when everybody really buys in? This is not short term, this is long term.
It's an interesting conversation and it's an interesting question because it's really easy to look at margin erosion and say, okay, we're losing money on, on vehicles that we're selling, but really we're getting all these tools. I mean, we're here at the show. We're getting all these tools sold to us with AI bolt-on, and I think it's a dangerous proposition to say, hey, AI is going to fix this, because we still have to manage the data, right? So we have all of this data, we have all of these things, but when you set it and forget it, and when you don't have the processes behind it, and when you don't have the attention on it, it can be extremely dangerous, and it can be fast. The amount of money that you lose can be fast when you set something to the side and think that the computer is going to take care of it for you.
Love that. Any other thoughts on that from the panelists on this question? I mean, really, you're feeling it. I know we've talked a lot about it. Anything anybody would like to add?
The process is I think we've lost it. I've heard it called the COVID hangover and all these things, and they're not wrong. And I think we've gotten away from how we've always done business. And if we can focus on the simple basics of how we've always done business, and not to mention training, and we have to do more and more training with our teammates. And if we can continue to do that, focus on what's important, all the other stuff will come into play. It'll be fine. It'll be fine, and we will get through it. It's just a little bit of a hiccup in our industry right now.
Yeah, some consistency.
I think dealers still haven't maximized the tools they've already invested in, and now they're jumping onto the new thing, and they keep thinking that's going to be the answer, but it's still selling 10 to 11 cars per salesperson per month. It really hasn't changed, but they keep throwing all these different things. So to Bill's point, it's the people, it's the training. You got to limit turnover. You got to let your team get good and get better, and then also quit setting expectations of 10 cars is where you hit your first bonus. That's saying below average you start to earn bonuses money. So level that bonus up to 12, 13 cars and start pushing your team. That one more per person changes a store.
And when we apply that to fixed operations, they touch more customers in a day, right, on the fixed op side. Erikka, anything you'd like to add?
To both points, when we're talking about the tools, some of these tools we've used for a long time, and they have changed. And sometimes we don't go get the training that's necessary to say, what has changed since I bought into this tool 5 or 10 years ago? And to your point, maybe they have AI or some other things, but if we're not going back to our partners and saying, hey, reteach my team. I have a new team now. I've been with this tool for a long time, and while there's parts of it that I might have mastered, there may be parts that I'm missing that could actually save the dealership a lot of time and money.
I'm going to brag on Dynatron for a minute because I do this constantly with Dynatron. And I was just talking to my original Start Smart coach, Alex, and I tell him all the time, when I get a new manager, when I get a new GM, I want to do Start Smart again. I want them to understand the full process. You're exactly right. You forget about it, and it becomes a tool that's useless.
Love it. So when we think of some margin losses, some are easy to see why others kind of compound quietly. So Erikka, where do you see dealerships tend to lose the most profit without realizing it?
It's interesting. I think recently I've seen a few places,
especially specifically in fixed. It's easy to kind of look at numbers and just kind of look at it on a surface level. Like I might be looking at discounts and coupons and saying, hey, kind of, what are these numbers saying? Is it a certain advisor? But digging in a little deeper, I'll find things that kind of blow my mind. I'll give you a couple examples. One specifically was a time of day that I would notice that the coupons on certain ROs would be more. And I'm like, why are my advisors discounting more between 12 and 2? And I couldn't figure it out, right? So I dug a little bit deeper and realized that my technicians were going to lunch, which was causing a hangover of time waiting for my team and for my customers. So they would discount more to make up for the fact that it took longer to get that work done. And so I'm like, we got to fix this. This is as easy as changing the advisor and the technician schedule to be staggered so the customers aren't waiting so we don't have to discount to make up for that. I'll tell you another example that stood out was I was noticing that technicians were skipping PDIs, certain PDIs. And I was like, if they're all in order for dispatch, why would you skip certain ones? Could not figure it out. They all pay 0.7. What's the clue here? Dig a little bit deeper, and I found out that my technicians were skipping the cars that came from Korea. Right? They were like, there's too much plastic on these. These ones are taking us too long to do. So then I'm like, okay, this is a time issue, right? Margins sometimes are not just the numbers, but like proficiency in the time and the processes. I had my detail team start pulling the plastic before the PDI, save the technician's time. Now I can get those ROs done faster. And again, those are the margins that we don't always see on the P&L statement that are a little bit deeper and take more data and gut intuition together to figure out like where are we really missing things.
It's interesting. We always talk about a Dynatron. It's a small incremental change for an exponential result. So I love it. Other thoughts on this question?
You're right. It is the small processes. It's the looking at discounts. It's what are my advisors doing? And you're right. The salespeople, they might have 10 customers a month, but that advisor's going to see at least 10 people a day.
Yeah.
By noon. How much are you going to lose on every ticket if you don't hone in those processes and pay attention to it and use the tools that we have available and keep them accountable?
I had one more for in the sales process. So I was noticing that my sales managers were setting up certain recon costs on the trades, but the recon costs have changed. Everything is more expensive. So what they thought maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, this cost to paint a bumper or to get this fixed, now costs almost twice as much. So we had to go back in and say, hey, how did you set up this recon cost? And then take a look at it and be like, this is what it actually cost. So like just educating our team on a different level, and these are the things that we kind of miss because you go, hey, I've been in this a long time, this takes about that to fix, and you haven't realized that it's more expensive to do almost anything now in the dealership.
Yeah, it's a great, talking about margin erosion comes in ways that we don't always see. And I love the thoughts that you guys have all given on that. That's great.
I'm going to throw something in. Erikka mentioned the discounts. We teach there's two levels. There's planned and there's unplanned, right? Planned is we put a coupon there, we're in the market, we know they're going to use it. We want them to use it. It's there to drive business. The unplanned is to cover the mistakes and the process failures. And those are the ones that creep up and get you and eat away at your margin. And then the flip side of that, because it shows up in the expense column, not really in the gross column, is the unapplied time. And just having good intentional unapplied time is fine. We're onboarding new techs, but there are techs that tend to take that as a liberty and ride that program too long. So having good disciplines and unapplied time.
And if you're in a store like in California, that can be compounded for you.
Yeah, they have a lot of labor laws that make it extremely challenging for them. But at the same time, they have to grow people.
So, as vehicle sales, we've been talking about it, right? We're seeing it become less predictable. We're seeing compression in margin. And so the expectation is that fixed operations has to continue to rise. So Bill, I'm going to come to you on this. What role should fixed ops? Think about those around us. 98% of the dealers and GMs I have the privilege to work with just never sat in a fixed ops role. But we know how important it is. So how does that play into stabilizing that profitability and growing it? And what prevents leaders from, clearly seeing what fixed ops is and performing, how they're performing or underperforming?
It's one of those things that we've all talked about. We want to be 100% fixed absorption. We've heard that number. I've been in this business 39 years. I've heard the number. But what is it? What does 100% fixed absorption really mean? And we have to be the backbone of the store. The responsibility 100% relies on us, the fixed ops team. And we have to accept that, and we have to understand it. And what I find in stores is sometimes we don't really understand what that number means. And I've had a general manager tell me, hey, I need that to go from 80 to 85. Okay, well, it didn't just go from 80 to 85. There's a lot of steps that have to, come into play to get it to 85. But if we can continue to focus, it is a real number. it is a number that is attainable, and I'll tell you, my group specifically, we started 4 years ago really focusing on that because I saw what was about to happen. We had cars during COVID that we weren't selling. We're going to start seeing a lower CPRO count, so I put an objective together in our team, minimum standard 100 as a group. We need to be 100% fixed absorption as a group. That's tough to get because we have some small stores, we have some big stores. So what you could do is the big stores, I need you from 120, I need you to get to 130, and I'm gonna leave you alone. The small guys, if you're at 60, I'm coming after you. We're gonna come in and we're gonna get you to 70, and we get the 90s to 100s. We did finish last year at 90.3 as a group. I'm not satisfied with it. I wanted the 100, we didn't get that.
But that's an incredible
It was a
improvement.
huge improvement. We were at 69% 5 years ago.
I remember.
So we've really grown this because it's intentional. And if you get intentional on productivity, proficiency, what's our time spent in the shop, to it's something as small as I asked our Dynatron coach, tell me how many air filters I sell per RO count in each store. What is my closing rate? I went to NCM and said, tell me what a good closing rate is on an air filter. 35% is a number. I heard 40 a couple times. We landed on 35%. Okay, where are we at? Yeah, 8%, 10%. Do the math on the gross profit of an air filter, and my group is $1 million.
Just on that one item.
One item. And we found that through Dynatron, so we've got a whole new focus in 2026 that's going to help us get rid of the erosion of the prices and really stand tall in the fixed ops team, which is our responsibilities. We must own it.
And I think a beautiful example of our partnership with NCM is, financial statement based. We're transactional based, right? Peel back that onion, look at what are the best metrics and how do we accomplish it together. Love that. Thank you. Who'd like to add on to what he just said?
I start every class with, I always go up to the board and I write people and process, and everybody's, oh yeah, people, they've all heard that. And then I put, and math.
And math.
And you need to know, the numbers, you need to understand the metrics that need to be delivered to make the business profitable and to make it to where the front end can become aggressive to sell cars at whatever price point they want to. And there's always that dealer in the market that everybody says gives the cars away. But if they have 100+% fixed coverage, they can do that. And then if they have a strong used car department, they might have dependency numbers that are at 120%. So they can lose money on their first 30 new cars and still be profitable. And that's how you build a database of loyal customers if you treat them right and fixed, and then you just build on your machine.
Based on the fact you can cover those expenses with fixed operations.
But everybody needs to know what the weight is. What do we have to do to make it happen? And it's just mathematics. You boil it down to the actual number, convert it to shop hours, and make sure you have the technical ability and the team that can put that together.
Coming in as a new GM, I've only been in my role 2 years. Fixed was just an area where I did not feel comfortable, right? It was overwhelming, the data, the numbers, the math. And so for me, it was very strategic to just spend time back there. And that was the hardest part, is to go back into fixed, spend time with my team, talk to the technicians, have the shop huddles and shop meetings, find out, educate myself, stand next to the foreman, stand next to the dispatcher. Because again, if you don't, immerse yourself inside it, you can get lost in the numbers. So I think it's a combination of what you're saying is the data, it's the benchmark metrics against other dealers, and then being in your shop and saying, where am I missing the mark, and educating yourself in real time.
I remember that.
Jennifer's like,
I'm sitting here reliving because I went to NCM for the GMEP program and did the same thing as you. I'm a new GM. I go to NCM. I come back and I sit with my service director, and we butted heads, but we loved it, right? Like, we had so much fun rebuilding that shop together. And I've just promoted him over another one of my stores. Like, he was going to retire. I got him to stay for a little bit longer, but I think it's more fun spending time like tweaking fixed ops than it is sourcing used cars.
dealers have so much data. They're not short on it, but what they're short on is the clarity. And how do you take the clarity of that data and how do you make it actionable? And so I really love that. And I think that's going to dovetail in, Rick, I'm going to come to you next. So when margins tighten, dealers often react quickly, but not always strategically. So where are the most common reactive moves that you see from all the dealers that come through the Institute, through the 20 groups? And which ones actually make the problems worse?
Big one is dealers overreact and put pressure on their people that are already struggling. Right? They need more training, they need more education, they need more clarity, as was mentioned, and instead they're getting more demands, like just give me more, give me more. And it's not that they don't want to give more, but there's plenty out there if you do it the right way. And I think that's the whole thing about the Dynatron tool. It's like sell an hour for the right margin, right? So that you can afford to send your people to training.
Very
And
true.
you should always
Reinvest in your people.
You should always be in a half an advisor long rather than a half an advisor short, because every time you're short, you give up training. I can't let that person leave the store. And all we're doing is retarding their individual growth, right? They cannot get where they want to go. And that's why we see advisors are about 2.5 years. The last report was 26 months, which is pretty scary. 2 years and 4 months average turnover.
last.
And they're not really getting proficient to deliver, the next level. And so I think dealers just need to slow down and find out, dig into the math. And what they'll find a lot of times is it's more of a managerial aspect that's broken down than the actual advisor pool. But it tends to filter down to the advisor team and creates just more pressure on them. So I can always remember struggling with a platform manager or a director that might come in and say something to the effect, and this is when I was like an FOD, but I had somebody above me that would come in and say, we need to crank up the appointments. It's like, no, we need to do better with the appointments that we have. We need to get all the juice out of the squeeze first and do it right, create great CSI, loyalty, retention, and then we'll scale from there. But just to come in and just throw more demands on the people that are, they're drowning, they're out there just struggling, and we're like dumping water on them. It's just not the best practice. So I think dealers, I would just challenge, get into the metrics and the math with your managers, and then give the people what they need.
Well, and you clearly know it. I mean, you first got introduced to Dynatron at Hendrick while you were in dealerships running, and how do you take that and use that application to really train and to coach, right? It's just as important to coach on what they're doing right as where they're challenging. So you want to celebrate those wins, and how that compliance reporting and those type of things have really helped a lot. I love it. Okay, who wants to add to that? I love that. Was a great. I would love to add. I love it.
Spot on. And one of the things that I've come to realize, back in my day, when we wanted to calculate hours per RO, we sat down and we did the math. We pulled the financial statement, we did the manager count. The problem today is technology. The problem today is I have a report, and maybe I have 4 of them. It's going to give me 4 different metrics. It's going to tell me hours per hour this, no it's this, no it's this. I sold this many hours, no I sold this many hours. So how to do the math, I find a lot of managers struggle with, because they didn't have to learn it. All they had to do was hit a button. One of the processes I highly recommend, we've developed a service manager's handbook. And in the handbook, all the math and how to do it is in my handbook. So you don't have to raise your hand when you say, I don't know how to calculate that. It's all there. And I did that purposely to help them understand there is a math equation. And if we back into what is the value of every tech per minute, when you do an equation like that, you'll be shocked at how much revenue we leave on the table from the lack of proficiency.
It kind of goes back to the efficiency you were talking about, right? It's a combination of both.
I got a sneak peek at his handbook. It looks genius. I can't wait to look at it.
One thing I love about our partners is they are so good about sharing with each other, and Bill has always been a very on the forefront, I think, in technology, not only in embracing it but leveraging it, and I think we all become better in this business when we push each other.
And you have to invest in the training. We have a great partnership with NCM. We have a subscription at every location. I already have the effective leadership class filled. We have the whole class, I think, for the first quarter of this year, January, February, and April. We just scheduled a service advisor class that is virtual. So we're bringing service porters in for those classes. We just filled a room. We just booked it today. So that'll be at NCM. If you're not utilizing our partners in training, we did 7,000 hours of micro training in our group last year with one of the other partners. Training is everything. And if we can continue to build processes, show what a good job looks like, coach it, train it, hold accountability to it because we understand it, we're going to have a better clientele of our employees, and the turnover will be a lot less.
Yeah, I think managers, really, you should measure your managers on their personnel turnover. So if they control their turnover and they continue to have growth, you've got a great manager.
Well, one other thing I want to add, and you started to touch on it in training, but listening, like listening. And I've had this conversation more this week, but one thing that we just implemented, we get our managers together. We do our Monday leadership meetings with our GMs. We do a quarterly leadership conference with all of our managers. But what I've started trying to do is roundtables with our service advisors. So once a quarter, and I wish I had time to do it more often, right? But once a quarter, and I make sure that I'm there. So they have the opportunity without their managers there to talk about their struggles. So the roadblocks, right? What is actually happening? Why is this process evaporating? Like you said, it's because of the plastic on the car. What is it that is making you feel like you don't have the tools, the time, the efficiency, whatever, to do your job? And then how can we find the way around that? So I had six stores. Getting all of those advisors together, and I do 2 different groups. So it's always interesting to hear what comes out of the different groups. But then listening, and then actionable items, right? Because then they see that you're listening. I got all of my technicians together with some of our state representatives because it's season, right? Right. So legislative season, but they felt heard. My master techs got in a room with my state representatives, our local leaders, and they felt heard. So it's just making sure you're listening to.
Well, they feel valued, right? I mean, that's it.
And that's how you retain people.
She's absolutely right, and we do something similar. We have a steering committee for our technicians. So once a quarter, the technicians get together, we provide lunch and give them an opportunity to bring all their grievances to the table, really listen. We're not trying to solve the problems specifically, but we pick 1 or 2 and say, these are the things that we're gonna work on, right? These are the things that, it could be something as simple as, we can never find the jump packs. You find the smallest thing that are like technician pain points, right? We're in Minnesota, we're in the snow, and they talk about having to go find and pull a car out of snow, with a dolly, and like, hey, how can we make this more efficient? Where do we park the cars that need to be towed in? Things that you wouldn't necessarily think about on a day-to-day basis, but that the techs every single day face. And to your point, if you're not listening to them, they just find ways around them, and it could be costing you money and margin erosion and everything else, and frustration from your team, which could lead to turnover, all because no one ever listened to the small things. So Jennifer's right.
I love it. We really talk about how you really turn fixed operations into a performance advantage, right? And so we talked a little bit earlier about how many of us in the business, that are dealers and GMs, just never had an opportunity to sit and fix ops. So if you had a dealer or GM say to you, why Dynatron, what would you say to them? Lightning round, very quick, what comes to your mind?
Because you do hear that. We hear it a lot. We have 3 general managers right now. We signed up for the NCM general managers training. And I asked all of them, when's the last time you were on the Dynatron coaching call? And the ones that respond, I'm on it, they get it. They understand it. Our newer ones, one of them just settled after his NCM meeting, he's like, oh my gosh, why don't you tell me about this?
It feels like I'm telling you every day.
They have to be on there. That's how you partner up with your team. That's how the fixed ops team knows, like, I'm your guy, I'm your gal, I'm your person. Lean on me and let me help you understand it. When you have this other coach that's coming in looking from the outside, exploiting things that even I don't see a lot of times, it's so helpful for the general manager to understand where that came from and why that's important to go down that path. So you have to be on them.
So feel like a safe space, right? Love it. Jennifer.
Dynatron is like the easiest thing to recommend. I do it all the time. Are you on Dynatron? Are you on Dynatron? But I went through NCM, GMEP at the same time that I was doing Start Smart. So, I mean, really, I had some fixed operations experience. Actually, my first job was as a service receptionist, but I'd never been a writer. I'd never been a service manager. I very much had variable experience coming into that GM role. And when I was learning fixed ops, it was a privilege to have NCM and Dynatron be those coaches that really helped me learn with my service director. It was hands-on. It was the GM and the service director together, right? That's the
hand in hand, right?
It's magic. And Dynatron can be magic if your people buy in. The sky's the limit. It's really incredible. Little tweaks, little things, but I learned so much going through that myself.
Well, and I mean, she was in here talking in the booth today about, wanting to continue even to grow as the chief operating officer with the group. So I love that. Erikka, how about you?
Well, I was excited. My first experience with a Dynatron training, just the opportunity to really ask questions in a vulnerable place with things I really didn't know and feel like I was getting educated on a micro level, that even sometimes with my dealer group, I'm a little hesitant, like, should I know this or not? Like, should I say I don't know this?
It's okay not to know, that's right.
But to be in a forum and in space where the instructors and leadership team was so open to kind of digging into the smaller places, helping you do the math, understanding how just one tiny fix could like explode your profitability, and then like the mind-opening realization that I've been missing this the whole time, and it's okay because we can fix it, right? That was the key point, is that I'm not just showing you a problem to show you a problem. Let me show you now the actionable steps to make sure that you can fix it.
Great, thank you, Erikka. Rick, how about you?
I've got two things. One is I would tell dealers the ROI is amazing, right? You get on the product in the first 30 days, it pays for really your first 12 months. Because if you do it right, you're going to get a massive lift. You're going to realize how much, to your point, you've been missing all along. I think that's a big part of it. The other part is, there's a dirty database for name files, right? Every dealer's got one, and they're pretty dirty. But there's an opcode database in the service department that's equally as dirty.
Yeah,
And I think that the tool really helps clean that up, and you find out where the abusers are, the people that aren't, taking the time to use the proper opcodes, and therefore compromising margin and creating bad habits that they're never going to break. So the tool helps you break them of those bad habits, and you're not the bad cop, you're just pulling the reporting out of the system. But when new operation codes start to magically appear, right, you can discuss, is this something that we need to make sure that we have our own, let's put it together. And I think it was CDK, they had the N, right? It was just a generic opcode. That would be the #1 used opcode. That should never happen.
I call it miscellaneous.
Yeah,
I asked a parts manager once, what if every part said miscellaneous? And they literally look like they're gonna have a heart attack in a 20 group meeting. So obviously we are blessed with incredible partners who are willing to share about how we elevate the conversation, the impact of fixed operations. Bill, Jennifer, Erikka, and Rick, thank you so much for being with us today. So live from the Dynatron booth, we talked about margin erosion and how we're going to elevate fixed operations that drives profitability. Thank you for being with us.